Think positive.
Welcome welcome back to the Gulam Bros podcast. GA for short. I'm your host, Prince. This is a space for inner work, self-improvement, self-discovery, mindset, accountability, integrity, reflection, and personal development. This podcast is built for growth, for honesty, and for becoming a better version of yourself, one day at a time. New episodes drop every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Today's episode is called Look at Impact. No more need to hide, to be shy. You impact like no other, and I'll show you the exact reason why. The thing you do so well, but no one can tell. You flow in the presence, and it's obvious. What you do, you have a gift for. Don't hide it just because of an audience. Attention has become the measuring stick for value. If nobody notices, people assume it doesn't matter. If recognition never comes, they begin questioning whether what they're doing is worthwhile. That's a dangerous way to think. Attention and impact have never been the same thing. One is about being seen. The other is about making a difference. A room can applaud you and forget you tomorrow. A single conversation can stay with someone for the rest of their life. One creates noise. The other creates change. When people become obsessed with attention, they lose sight of what actually matters. The goal was never to collect eyes. The goal was to leave something behind. A lot of meaningful things happen where no spotlight exists, no cameras, no audience, no recognition, just a moment that changes somebody. And sometimes that's more valuable than being remembered by thousands. The strangest thing about a gift is that it rarely feels like one when you're the person carrying it. What comes naturally to you often feels ordinary. You become familiar with it, comfortable with it, used to it. After enough time passes, you stop noticing it altogether. Meanwhile, someone else is looking at that exact thing and wondering how you make it look so easy. What feels effortless to one person can feel impossible to another. That's why so many gifts go unrecognized. Not because they're hidden, because they're familiar. The thing you do so well, but no one can tell. Not because it isn't valuable, because you've stopped looking at it through fresh eyes. Think about how often people compliment something you've never thought about twice. Maybe it's the way you encourage people. Maybe it's the way you solve problems. Maybe it's your creativity. Your ability to stay calm when everyone else is losing theirs. To you, it's normal. To someone else, it's rare. A gift doesn't stop being special simply because you've become accustomed to it. Think about the people who influenced your life. Not the celebrities, not the public figures, the real people. The teacher whose words stayed with you. The friend who showed up when you needed it most. The person whose example changed the way you approached life. Most of them weren't trying to create impact. Most weren't seeking recognition. Yet, years later, their influence remains. A sentence can outlive the moment it was spoken. An example can outlive the person who said it. A lesson can continue traveling long after the teacher is gone. The strongest forms of influence don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they simply stay. You rarely get to see how far it travels. You may never know whose confidence grew because of your encouragement. You may never know who kept going because of something you said. You may never know who changed direction because they watched how you handled adversity. The ripple effect of influence is often invisible, not because it doesn't exist, because it keeps moving long after you've stopped looking. Look around at the work in the world that impacts us daily, whether that be in music, sports, art, or fashion. Everywhere you look, influence is at work. A song changes the way people think. An athlete inspires discipline. An artist creates a new perspective. A designer like Virgil introduces an idea that spreads across the world. What starts with one person often reaches thousands, sometimes millions. Yet, before any of those things become influential, they were simply someone's contribution, an idea, a vision, a gift, something they decided to share. That's why influence is so fascinating. Most people only see the result. They see the popularity, the recognition, the success. What they don't see is the moment it began, the moment someone stopped hiding what they had to offer. Someone trusted their ability enough to put it into the world. Someone decided that contribution was more important than fear. Influence doesn't always announce itself. Many times, it starts small. A thought becomes a conversation becomes an idea becomes action becomes change. Before long, something that seemed insignificant has traveled farther than anyone expected. That's the nature of influence. It moves, it spreads, it reaches places you never planned for it to reach. Flip that. Think about the people who've influenced you that you've never met. The artist whose music got you through something. The athlete who inspired you. The creator whose work stuck with you. Now imagine if they never shared what they had. Imagine if they convinced themselves nobody would care. Imagine if fear won. The work never reaches the world. The influence never reaches you. The impact is never made. A lot of what has shaped us came from someone deciding to contribute, someone deciding to create, someone deciding to share. Now, consider the possibility that someone could be waiting on what you've been afraid to put out. Influence isn't reserved for celebrities. It isn't reserved for athletes. It isn't reserved for musicians or artists. Influence belongs to anyone willing to contribute something meaningful. The question isn't whether you have influence. The question is what you're doing with it. Because whether you realize it or not, people are always observing something. Your habits, your attitude, your effort, your character, your example. Every one of those things leaves an impression. Every one of those things carries influence. And influence, when used well, becomes impact. The audience has never determined the value of what you bring. Whether 10 people see it or 10,000 doesn't change its worth. A gift remains a gift. Impact remains a mystery until it's released. I hope you found something worth taking with you today. Maybe a new perspective, maybe a moment to pause and reflect. Thank you for being here and sharing this space with me. Your presence matters. If this resonated with you, share it with someone you care about, because growth spreads through connection. I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself. Stay grounded. And as always, be safe.